Just recently, a 14-year-old boy was gunned down not too far from where I live here in the South Bronx. And when I heard about this incident, it really made me think about the 25 plus years of black on black crime here in the black community. And how, you know, after 25 years, nothing really has changed regarding black on black crime and how no one really wants to talk about the issue. And when we look at the issue of black on black crime, people have been dealing with this subject ever since the late 1980s. I remember when a group of East Coast rappers came out with the song Self Destruction. Now, if you're an old school rap fan, you know who was in this song. It was KRS-One, Heavy D, many Dougie Fresh, many rappers, and they were telling black people back then, 25 years ago, that when you participate in black on black crime, you are headed for self destruction. And, you know, it didn't seem like the message really took because even after they made this song, here in New York, the murder rate between black that was black on black continued to escalate up to the point where it hit the 2,200 murder mark back in about 1990, 1991. And I also remember on the West Coast, they also did a song. Rappers did a song called All in the Same Gang around 92 or 1993, featuring, West Coast rappers. And I know that they did two versions because they edited Hammer's part out of the second version. And the first version it had a whole bunch of West Coast rappers. And again, they talked about, how we are all in the same gang and how black people need to stop killing other black people. Again, the message did not resonate with the Negro, even with their so called celebrities telling them not to participate in black on black violence. And now we fast forward to here around 2015, and in the wake of, the murders of Trayvon Martin, your Eric Garner, your Michael Brown, and countless other black men by white police officers, people want to talk about Black Lives Matter. Now, 25 years ago, you had rappers telling you that killing yourself is self destruction. And now, when people try to tell people who talk about Black Lives Matter about black on black crime, we call them coons, black buffoons, sellouts, Uncle Toms. Um, but your very same rappers from 25 years ago were trying to express this message to the Negro. But today, those same people who tell you about black on black crime will call it a sellout. But for them, black lives only matter when they're taken by a white cop or a non black person. Um, and when you think about it, we've had an entire generation to deal with the issue of black on black crime, but no one wants to discuss it again. It's just like the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Nope, it's something no one wants to talk about, but they don't understand how it relates to Black Lives Matter. Because again, in order for a black life to matter to you, to others, it has to matter to black people. And telling the world that Black Lives Matter when it doesn't matter to black people, makes a Negro sound like a hypocrite because how can you ask non black people to value your life when Pookie continues to shoot Ray 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 continues to shoot Jaheim, or John Tavius continues to shoot Dimacell, or, whoever. Again, you have to, in order for a black life to have value to others, it has to have value to black people. But when you present this argument to a Negro, he will then call you a coon, a black buffoon, a sellout, an Uncle Tom, or whatever shaming language he wants to use to shut down, serious debate. Because we look at this situation, and again, it really looks bad when you look at it from a broader perspective. I mean, here we are, almost 25, 26 years later, and the number one cause of death is continues to be for black men continues to be other black men. I remember back in about 1988 the before all of this insanity, because I was reading an article in Ebony magazine back then. Number one killer of black men was heart disease. Now the number one killer, this has been since 1990. Number one killer of black men is other black men, and you know, people have thrown all sorts of excuses as to how to stop black on black crime. And I always look at it as, these solutions that they continue to throw at people and these excuses they continue to make about it, saying kids have lack of opportunity, lack of jobs. I always looked at those as excuses because, there have always been opportunities out here. I mean, when I was working at Strive back in 2000. We had at one point at our job readiness program, we had more jobs than actual people to put into for placement. So to say that it's a lack of jobs, that argument doesn't really wash with me because again, I worked in a nonprofit 15 years ago, you know, and where we dealt with your ex offenders and your at risk. We dealt with your single mothers and all sorts of people. And the largest group of participants we actually had primarily were female. So to say that there's a lack of opportunity, I don't really believe that excuse because when we would have our cycles for participants, primarily at Strive here in New York when I was working there, most of them were women. Why is it that the women will take the job training programs and job readiness opportunities, but your Negro male won't even think, for the most part, to take these programs? The only place where I saw a lot of Negro males, was the PC repair program I was attending at the Manhattan Educational Opportunity Center after I lost my job. That was the only place I really saw a lot of black men. For the most part, people again they talk about lack of job opportunities, and a lot of mentoring programs. There are plenty of programs, again, like the Strive program here in New York. That program has been around for since the 1980s, and they have helped many thousands of people, get jobs and learn how to secure jobs and learn how to keep them. So I really don't believe that argument, you know, that it's a lack of jobs and job opportunities that cause, all this black on black crime. I really don't believe that that's has anything to do with it. I also don't believe it's a lack of educational opportunities. Yeah, our schools are not the greatest, but I really do believe the core problem that has to do with all this black on black crime is this dysfunctional black family. When you look at because if the family is messed up, you really cannot socialize the child so that they can function in environments like a job or a school. If the home is messed up, the child can't function in a school or a job. And this is where the real problem lies. And this is something, many in the Negro community don't want to deal with when it comes to black on black crime. And that the black on black crime really, I believe, comes from the dysfunctional values many of these Negroes learn in these homes. They come from homes with these dysfunctional parents. I'm not just going to say the single mother, because I'm going to say this father is also dysfunctional. This because the father's usually Pookie or Ray Ray. This jive time hustler who's out here pushing dope, or he's in all sorts of street hustles, and nobody looks at that part of the home, and they're thinking that they can fix it with job training or mentoring or after school programs. I mean, these after school programs and job training, they won't even put a dent in black on black crime. What really has to be, taken care of is this home. And the home structure has been completely destroyed by white liberal policies and, the feminine and black women who sided with the feminist movement back in the 70s and embraced the welfare state. If you look at the welfare state and the damage it did, that's where we got this huge spike in black on black crime. If you look at the statistics, we didn't get this huge spike in crime until the 60s with the drug culture, and in the black community it really didn't start really escalating until again with the drug culture, and it really got out of control with the crack epidemic. We really started to see this giant spike in crime, but it continued, and it really, sadly, it really hasn't leveled off because again, black people still, they don't want to confront the issue regarding black on black crime. I mean, this has been going on for 25 plus years, and everybody keeps continuing to make the same narrative that parrot the same narrative as your white liberal, telling them that it's a lack of job opportunities, a lack of employment opportunities. Well, I look at it this way: you've pumped trillions of dollars into the black community over the last 40 years. Why isn't there a stable middle class? Why aren't there, black entrepreneurs and black businessmen coming up? I mean, with all this money coming in, we should have had a middle class. I mean, people should be wealthy by now. Why do black people continue to engage even in these behaviors, even when they can get money? Because we see NBA stars and NFL stars continuing to participate in the same violent behaviors. So is it really about economics, or is it really have to do with these family values, that are taught in the home? Because I'm seeing NFL stars, participating in the same dysfunctional behaviors, like your Michael Vick with his dogfighting. That's a ghetto concept. Or many other football players, participating in other violent behaviors that constitute black on black crime, getting into these assaults and these batteries, domestic, all of this, this black on black crime. Again, it's 25 plus years, and it's like I can't even think of wars that went on as long as black on black crime, and no one ever thought, to take both sides together and try to figure this out. I mean, 25 years. I mean, Desert Storm didn't go on that long. Iraq War didn't go on that long. Afghanistan didn't go on that long. World War II didn't go on that long. Civil War didn't go on that long. Even the Vietnam War didn't go on as long as black on black crime has gone on. Yet nobody wants to talk about black on black crime. I mean, more people from the period of 1986 to 1991, or 93, I'll say 93, were killed in black on black crime than were killed in Desert Storm, Iraq War, and Afghanistan combined. Yet, no civil rights activists will talk about, black on black crime. None of these pro blacks who say they love black people will talk about black on black crime. All of these casualties in this civil war, yet none of these people will talk about, the devastating impact of black on black crime on an entire generation of people. I mean, 25 plus years of black people committing homicides against other black people, and most of the black leadership, um, like your pro blacks, like your NAACP, like your Al Sharptons, like your Louis Farrakhan's, like your Nation of Islam, like your civic organizations, and even will ever say a word, about this black on black crime. It's just everybody gives black on black crime a pass. It's been going on for 25 plus years. And the silence, is like saying, I'm okay with this. And that it's all right for a black person to kill another black person. And this goes back to my argument about Black Lives Matter. If you can say, if you're not saying anything, you're saying that black on black crime is fine. And how can you say Black Lives Matter to you if you don't want to deal with the black on black crime that has been going on for 25 plus years? I mean, in order to say again that Black Lives Matter, they have to matter enough to you to say that you won't kill that other black man next to you, or that you won't stab that black man who you're having a disagreement with. Because again, if in order for a black life to matter, um, it has to matter to black people, and that's the argument that many black people just don't get. A lot of them think that you walking around with a sign saying Black Lives Matter is going to convince other people that Black Lives Matter. But when they look at your actions, what that tells people is that it doesn't matter to you, because if you'll kill another black man over a piece of chicken, how little value does that black life have to you? If you kill another black man for looking at you, how much value does that black man's life have to another black man? If a black man will kill another black man over a woman, or somebody looking at his woman, how much? What does that say about the value of a black man's life as compared to another black man? How can you? How can these people again go to a non-black person or a white person and then ask them, to value their life when they don't value it themselves. And that's, what's so hypocritical about these people talking about Black Lives Matter. Black people have been killing each other like roaches for 25 plus years. And they want to go to the rest of the world making the statement that Black Lives Matter. No, you have to go and tell yourself that. It's just like in the Bible where it says, get the mud out of your own eye before you look at the plank in your brother's. When we look at the black community, there's a big knot in the black community's eyes as regarding the black lives. When it comes to black lives, we don't value our own lives, but then we want other people to value them, and that's just not how it works. In order to get other people to value your life, it has to matter to you. And the way you show that your life matters is through your actions. People who value other people don't get emotional and pull out a gun because somebody stepped on their shoes or somebody looked at them or somebody took the last piece of chicken. People who value the lives of others, what they do is they apologize, they move on, and they realize that, these little things in life are not worth getting violent over. I mean, people who value their lives do not get on fights, have fights and arguments with people on a train that they don't even know, and want to hurt them just because they looked at them or they said something to them. What they do is they digest that. They say, okay, that's how he feels. I'm just going to apologize and move on, or I'm just going to move on. I'm just not going to take it personal. And this is something your Negro just doesn't get, about life. Because a lot of them don't have coping skills. They don't have life coping skills. They don't have, reasoning skills or critical thinking skills to understand that, you know, in the scheme of things, this little incident in life is not worth me taking another person's life or even losing my life over. And it's not worth the consequences of it. Because again, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And if you take that other black person's life, you're going to lose yours because you're going to wind up in the prison system. And even if you do get out of the prison system, you're going to wind up with a felony conviction on your record, and that's pretty much going to ruin your life. Because again, if you value your life, you don't want to wind up with a felony conviction on your record, or you don't want to wind up taking somebody's life or living with the consequences of taking somebody's life over something as foolish as a pair of stepped on sneakers. A pair of sneakers, I would say, in 3 months, you're not even going to want to see. Or somebody looking at you, or somebody looking at your girlfriend, or whatever, or even a piece of chicken that's pretty much going to wind up in the toilet bowl about 4 or 5 hours later. This is not worth, taking somebody's life over. And this is something that most black people haven't thought of in 25 years. 25 plus years of people killing each other over the silliest things. It's just mind-boggling to me. I mean, most civil wars don't even last as long as black on black crime. Most um, conflicts don't even last as long as black on black crime. In the most parts of the world, people aren't killing each other like this, for these long periods, as long as black people have been killing other black people. And black on black crime is something that nobody really wants to discuss because the solution, again, has to do with the home, partially. And we've done all the things that everybody's talked about, a lot of this, you know, lack of job opportunities and all this other stuff. And I really don't believe that has to do with black on black. I really do believe it has to do with the home and the values because we had periods of poor people, back in the 40s and back in the 50s and even in the 30s, and the homicide rate was not as high as it is right now. And people didn't really have great jobs. They were Pullman porters, they were janitors, and but yet people had dignity and respect, and they valued the life of another black person. Yes, there were people out there who carried their straight razors when they went to the juke joint, and some people carried knives in their stockings. Those There were people out there like this. These were the grandmothers of many of these other dysfunctional people, but for the most part, black people respected other black people, and black people's lives valued to or had value to other black people. We fast forward to today, and here we are talking about Black Lives Matter, you know, and nobody has ever, went back and gone and sit and really listened to those two songs, All in the Same Gang, and the other one that first kind of came out, called Self Destruction. And the song Self Destruction really makes the statement, about what black on black crime really does to black people. When you attack another black man or another black woman, you're headed for self destruction because you're destroying yourself, you're destroying your community, and you're destroying everybody's perception of what it is to be a black person. And this is something, black people don't really think about because, again, it takes critical thinking skills to see things from that larger perspective and to see that black on black crime really destroys the image of black people. It demeans the image of black people and it devalues the image of black people for ourselves because when we devalue ourselves, we tell others that we have less value. So when that non black person or that white person kills that black person, the reason why they can do that is because we do it to ourselves. And when we do it to ourselves, we are telling the world we have no value, we have no worth, and that we're willing to do whatever to each other to get to do, and it's okay for others to do it to us, because again, in order to show that a black life matters, it has to matter to us. And instead of holding up signs and protesting and telling the world that Black Lives Matter, the ways we could show that Black Lives Matter is by treating our fellow brothers and sisters with the respect that we would want for ourselves. And again, following the biblical concept of do unto others as we would have them do unto you. And that's something that, most black people really need to start doing if they want to show that Black Lives Matter. Because if in order for a black life to matter to others again, it has to matter to us. And we have to start convincing ourselves that our lives matter before we go out and tell others that black lives matter. And that's how we're going to that's the real solution to dealing with, you know, this 25 plus years of black on black crime is we have to learn how to value our own lives and convince ourselves that our own lives matter. Um, it's not going to be a government program. Again, this goes back to the home and promoting good family values because if you learn how to value the life of your family members and your friends, you'll soon learn how to value the lives of others. Now, that's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.